There are only four teams remaining in the playoffs as the West and Eastern Conference finals get underway tomorrow night. And I've been doing a series looking at the teams that have already started their off-season routines and getting ready for next year. And I want to continue that series today. But before we dive into that, just want to thank those who've been tuning in. We've had new viewers, new subscribers as this channel has been growing. It's been really cool to see as I've been doing this channel as a side project. I do the Barrie Colts play-by-play on Rogers TV, and felt that, why not extend the broadcast to YouTube? It's been a real cool experience to be able to talk about the Barrie Colts and the rest of the Ontario Hockey League. Now, this is kind of a side project because I also work full-time at a radio station here in Barrie. So this is just for fun, and it would be great to be able to do a little bit more on the broadcasting front. I know the Barrie Colts currently don't have a radio broadcast team. Maybe next year. I don't know. Time will tell. I would love to do it because I used to do it with the Sudbury Wolves. I was a part of their radio broadcast for 4 seasons from 2011 up until 2015. So it'd be kind of neat to do that again with the Barrie Colts, but who knows? One step at a time. It is the off season, and it's a good time to spend with family and also just watch some playoff hockey. So I wanted to get right into it with the Ottawa 67's today. This is a team from a broadcast vantage point I've had some struggles with based on their jerseys. Of course, they have the barber pole look, which can be a little challenging to see the numbers on the uniforms. I know they put the numbers now on the shoulders on their home jerseys or on their barber pole uniforms, but their white jerseys with the stripes going along the sleeve, it's hard to see those arm numbers. And it takes a bit to get used to even just with the players because we only see the Ottawa 67's twice at the Saddlein Arena during the regular season. So that's always a problem I have calling games involving the Ottawa 67's, but I love their uniforms. I'm a jersey collector, and it is on my wish list to get an Ottawa 67's jersey. I don't know what player I would want to get, probably a blank for the most part, but I just wanted to start with that before we dive into the Ottawa 67's because they had a pretty decent season in 2023-24. There was a lot of people who were expecting this team to compete for top spot in the Eastern Conference standings, and they weren't too far off. Ended up 9 points short of the Oshawa Generals, just with how close the Eastern Conference was last season. And this team, despite their shortfalls, they were still entertaining to follow because this is a team that had a lot of pieces returning from the 2022-23 season. They finished first that year in the Eastern Conference standings, but were knocked out in the second round by the Peterborough Petes. So you kind of figured maybe this team would be able to expand on their experiences. Obviously, the East a little bit more competitive than what we saw the year before. But they started the year off by trading away Jack Beck. He was an overage forward, so you're only allowed to have 3 overagers in your lineup per game. And they decided to send him off to Sault Ste. Marie. And then as the season progressed, we got to the OHL trade deadline, and they decided to shuffle up their whole OA look. They traded Caleb Lawrence, Max Donoso, and then brought in Sam Maillet, Braden Kressler, and Jacob Millette. So the veteran lineup on this team had a bit of a fresh look, and I was curious as to see how this team would do, and they stayed competitive. They ended up finishing 6th in the Eastern Conference with the great play from Colin McKenzie. He was fantastic in net. They also had Jack Dever, who had a good year, Luca Pinelli, and Kressler. So, although they were, finishing 6th, they were still, like I said, 9 points back of the Oshawa Generals. 1st through 6th was really close in the Eastern Conference standings. They ended up playing the Brantford Bulldogs in the first round, and they were able to upset them. They got to the second round, but ran into a very red-hot Oshawa Generals team that completed the series sweep. But, for Ottawa, this was a pretty good season. It wasn't a first-place finish like the year before, but still, it was really neat to see this team develop and grow, and they were a threat throughout the regular season. I do a power rankings video during the regular season, and they never once fell out of the top 10, although they never took top spot in the power rankings either. Looking at the top 10 scores from the regular season, Luca Pinelli led the way, 48 goals, 34 assists, good for 82 points. Also just signed recently an NHL entry-level contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets. You also had Braden Kressler. He came in at number 2, 28 goals, 46 assists, 74 points. Henry Muse, there's a lot of hype about him. 15 goals, 46 assists, good for 61 points on the season. Expect Henry Muse to be drafted in the first round of the NHL draft in June. I know he's kind of dropped a little in NHL Central Scouting's reports over the season, but Henry Muse, the defenseman, still expect to hear him have his name called in the first round. After that, we had Jacob Millette. He had 17 goals, 42 assists on the season, good for 59 points. Sam Maillet, who they picked up from the Peterborough Petes, 21 goals, 32 assists, 53 points on the season. Cooper Foster, he had a pretty good year, 21 goals, 31 assists, 52 points. Then there's Brad Gardner, 16 goals, 33 assists, good for 49 points. Will Gerrois, 8th in scoring on this team, 26 goals, 19 assists, 45 points. Brady Stonehouse came 9th with 20 goals, 24 assists, 44 points. Although I think Stonehouse may have been playing injured during this season because his numbers dropped off from the year before. The previous season, he put up 37 goals, 57 points. So it's a significant drop going down to 20 goals on the regular season. I understand he went in for, I think it was shoulder surgery, some sort of procedure. So he was playing hurt, and he's decided to take care of it now in the offseason. Frankie Morelli, though, he wraps up the top 10 scoring for this Ottawa 67's team. Ended up with 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points. In net, Colin McKenzie had a pretty good year. 14-11, 2-1 was his record. A 3.05 goals against average and a 901 save percentage. He was injured late in the season. He had a hard time staying healthy at times for Colin McKenzie, but when he was healthy and ready to go, he was stellar and a big factor for this Ottawa 67's team. They also brought in Ian Micheloni from the Windsor Spitfires. He had a record of 17-10, 4-1, a 3.73 goals against average, and an 876 save percentage. I also really liked Micheloni's mask. It was a throwback to Ed Belfour with the Eagles on the side. I really liked that touch, and he started that when he was with Windsor and decided to keep it when he came to Ottawa. But Micheloni, some decent numbers there, especially after the move from Windsor when he joined the Ottawa 67's. But a bright spot will be goaltending, I feel, for this Ottawa 67's team, because there's a lot of excitement around prospect Jaden Nelson. He appeared in 2 games last season for Ottawa. He's been playing with the Navan Grads, where he posted a .921 save percentage and 3 shutouts. So outstanding numbers with the Navan Grads. And in the playoffs, a .936 save percentage. So fans, I think, of the 67's will be pretty excited once Nelson starts to see some regular playing time with the Ottawa 67's. The graduating overagers this season, I already kind of touched on who they are. Kressler, Millette, and Maillet. And then the overage candidates for next season includes Brady Stonehouse, who's an Ottawa Senators prospect, Will Gerrois, Derek Smythe, Thomas Sermon, Matthew Mayich, who's also an Ottawa Senators prospect, Ian Micheloni, and Colin McKenzie. So both goaltenders are OA candidates, which will be very interesting to see where this team goes in that direction. Do you keep one of your goaltenders, or do you look for Nelson to take over and maybe bring in another goaltender? There's a lot of question marks, I feel, with this Ottawa 67's team. It's going to be interesting to see what direction they go, because all their OA candidates have potential. But then do you look to maybe trade them away for assets? Because I think this team, they're not going to be as competitive this upcoming season. I feel like it's the season after that this team will be competitive once again in the Eastern Conference. But then you also have Luca Pinelli. He just signed that contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets. If he's returned to the Ottawa 67's, do they flip him, or do they hold him for the trade deadline, or do they keep him to hopefully go on some sort of a run for the playoffs in the Eastern Conference? And it's a very similar situation to what's going on in Owen Sound with Colby Barlow, and for Kitchener with Carson Rakoff. These players are going to come back from the National Hockey League, or if they do, you know there's going to be teams that are looking to buy next year who will want to have a player such as Pinelli, who is such a great goal scorer, 48 goals on the season. Maybe next year, does he hit the 50-goal mark? It'll be interesting. Time will tell. But I do feel that this Ottawa 67's team should make the playoffs next year, but maybe not pushing for home ice advantage. That's just how it looks on paper right now. But it will be interesting to see how things play out in the nation's capital. So that's how I see it from the booth. Thank you very much for all of your support and for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.